My name is Denai Metaxakakavuli. I'm a senior in high school and I want to be a computer scientist.
My name is Scott Colby. I'm a computer scientist and I got my start at the Museum of Science.
My name's Sophie. I'm in the 3rd grade and I want to be a science teacher.
I'm Michelle Scribner-MacLean. I've been coming to the Museum of Science for 31 years and I'm a science teacher.
My name is Ajale. I'm in the 4th grade and I want to be an engineer to invent flying cars.
My name's Andrew Hafitz and I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm designing a flying car at Terrafugia now, and I got my start at the Museum of Science.
It's the sort of place where it allows you to ask questions. It actually prompts you to ask more questions. And that's really where the learning begins.
I started going when the Museum of Science was in a red corrugated building right next to the MDC Canal. I think it was every Saturday morning. They were always something interesting, lots of experiments or animals to hold. The museum always taught me to ask the questions, particularly when you don't know.
The best part for me as a teacher has been that I just love coming. I love coming on my own. I love bringing 2 kids. I love bringing 54 kids. And I love the conversations that we're able to have here. It's incredibly gratifying to see my students interact with museum staff and be able to ask them those questions. And it sort of validates what I do every day, that I'm seeing them really come into their own and fall in love with science all over again.
Ever since I was a little kid, I knew I wanted to be a scientist. So my parents would bring me to the Museum of Science. And just as anyone who loves baseball goes to Fenway Park, I loved science, and we would go to the museum.
With observation comes questions, and with questions you want to find out more, you want to find out the answer.
It's important for kids to ask the big questions because they're expanding their mind. And when you can start it early here, asking the big questions, it's a giant leap forward.
I've never been afraid to ask a question, never been afraid to look stupid, and chances are I'm not the only one in the room that didn't know. Chances are nobody in the room knows. That's the background in becoming an engineer, studying engineering in school. It taught you to ask the questions and listen to the answers and put things in context and making sure that one fact led to the next.
And that's what the museum did for me. It brought me back to thinking about how I as a scientist interact with society and where I might best be able to put my efforts. So a question I got in the audience at an event made me completely rethink things that I could work on and really try to contribute to making people's lives better.
Every time I come back to the Museum of Science, there's something new here, and that really encapsulates what science is about. Science isn't something sealed up in an envelope. The essence of science is that it will change.
I think the Museum of Science is a catalyst not just for finding answers, but more importantly for finding questions. Because if you're interested in science and you're finding different areas that intrigue you, the more questions you ask, the more answers you're going to find and the more you're going to learn.
The Museum of Science has made a huge difference for so many of our students. Students who maybe were starting to feel less than challenged in the regular classroom because their just brains are so curious. Those students have been hooked back into education because of the Museum of Science.
We will need genius and motivated genius to solve some of the problems of the future. We can't let that genius not arise because we haven't given the right education and we haven't exposed every student to the joy and the excitement and the challenges that science provide.
And in a world where science is increasingly important and our understanding science in a deeper and more real way, it has an incredibly important role to educate everyone. The youngster, the adolescent, the young parent, and folks like me. We're always learning, and this is a great place to learn.
And education is really about learning how to learn and recognizing in yourself how it is you learn. And some people get it soon and early, and some people like me don't until they have an experience at the Museum of Science like I did.
If I look back on all of my experiences in my life, in terms of my professional growth, the Museum of Science has been the biggest part of my life. When I smell the museum, when I hear the sounds of the museum, I feel like I'm coming home.
A gift today lets the museum invest in the future. And I've always thought for my children, I can give them more money to spend, or I can build a better world for them. When you give the Museum of Science, you really do build a better world. And maybe some kid will walk in the door, get an appreciation for science, go on and win a Nobel Prize, cure cancer, who knows? Anything's possible.
I want to be the first to cure cancer.
I want to make faster computers.
I want to use engineering to make the world a better place. I want to let everyone know math is fun.
I want to be a chemist, a neurologist, a physicist, and an astronomer.